We're starting now.
Hello, it's 7 o'clock and welcome to a bit of a new departure for Acocks Green Ward Forum, our first ever online live broadcast. It's a bit unusual for us, we're used to gathering over at Foxholly's Forum, but we're doing a bit differently for the time being. Hopefully we'll be able to return to our normal format as soon as we possibly can. We've got a bit of an agenda tonight. A few minutes I'll hand over to Dr. Justin Varney, who's our Director of Public Health, and he'll take us through where we are in terms of COVID-19. And after that, we've got Sergeant Craig Woolaway, who's in charge of our local neighbourhood policing team. Just before I hand over, I do just want to really say thank you to all the residents out there. It's been a very difficult few months for everybody, I know. And many of us have lost friends and relatives across a wide part of the country. And many people have been isolating for several months, and that itself is very difficult. And if you've had children at home, you also know that's quite difficult as well. But I know I think we actually responded really well as a community. I'd have to say thank you, particularly to those people who've been using their time to volunteer. There's been an army of volunteers out there across the city, helping people in need, and it's been a real show of what Birmingham can do when it pulls together. We've also got to thank our frontline staff, and that's not just the medics who've been dealing with some of the most difficult cases that they have seen, some of the most challenging situations they've ever seen. Also got to thank the staff in the care homes and the cleaners, street cleansers, our bin workers, and even the new group of frontline staff, people who've been running our supermarkets for the past 6 months at no small risk to themselves, keeping us fed. And if you've been out there on a frontline job, if you've been out there driving buses, driving trains, keeping our transport system working, thank you. Roger, anything you want to add?
I agree entirely with that, and it's been fantastic that there's been so many people offering their help, so that, you know, if people have needed support, they've been shielding, and there have been people, you know, able to do jobs for them either informally or as part of larger groups. So big thank you to everybody who's, you know, stood up and done what's been needed to keep us going in the last few months. It's been brilliant.
Thanks, Roger. Now we are in different places, so we can see each other and hear each other. Unfortunately, we can't see or hear you. So what we have is the option there to add in typing questions, and we will read those out. Won't necessarily identify the question unless you want to be identified, and we'll try and answer the best we can. This is something of an experiment. This is something called Teams Live. There are other options out there, and we may look at trying different ways of running these in the future. So we could do with your feedback as to how you like this particular format. Now, I think has Justin Varney joined us?
At the moment, Councillor, I can't see Justin, and I can't see Sergeant Woolaway. So, do we want to go to your updates while we wait for the others to join? I'll try and see what's happened. Okay,
this is going well. So this is a new experiment for us. This is Roger's first time one of these, my second time. So we are hardly experts at doing this. So do bear with us. It's being done from our own homes. Right, a couple of issues to let you know about. One of the biggest is the improvements to Foxholly's Park, which are coming down the track at a bit of pace now. We should be starting consultation on that probably next week, I think now. And that's, to start with, that's a massive improvement in the play area, particularly the one down the Gospel Lane end. The one that's down there is now looking a bit tired, and it's going to be relocated maybe about 50 metres further into the park onto a slightly raised piece of land and enhanced. And what we're doing over the next month or so is getting views from the community. There'll be an online survey on Bee Herd, which will ask people to, and particularly children, to ask them what they want to do. And the survey is not going to ask people about what particular items of kit they want on that site. It's actually going to ask children how they play. I don't know if I can show you this. Give it a try. It works. But if you, no, you can't see me. It blanks it out. Great system. They ask questions about their style of play, and from that, officers can work out the sort of equipment they want to put there. This is a huge investment in the park. The total spend is something of the order of £750,000. And just to be clear, that can only be spent in Acocks Green and then Foxhollies Park, because it's all tied in with planning. And guys, we've had some very good officers who've ensured that that money is recovered from the developments and can only be spent on park improvements. So we can't spend on other things, it has to go into the park, so we're going to make good use of it. We'll also be working closely with the Friends of Foxhollies Park to get them and get their advice on it and what they want to do. So this is probably the biggest investment in Foxhollies Park, quite possibly ever in its history. It's a huge amount of spending, and it's going to make some real difference to that area. So that survey is coming out. I haven't got a date precisely yet, but I think we're looking at next week. And we really want the opinions of local residents as to what they want us to do with that, how they want it improved. We've also had, unfortunately, some vandalism down there in the past few weeks. Mostly the pictures of the benches ripped out. Got the Gospel Lane and around the path. Those have actually been retained by the council. We're not putting those back in because, as part of the improvements, which also includes an outdoor gym and a marked out walking track and a small cycling training area, that they'll be putting new benches into place. And we'll also be carrying out repairs on the gate off Oakhurst Road, which has also been quite badly damaged. We'll be aware of the major gas work being carried out by Cadence in the middle of the village at the moment. It'll be going on forever and a day. That's part of a huge replacement program across the entire city. They did Yardley Road, I think, 18 months ago, and they'll be doing a stretch on Gospel Lane at the end of August, beginning of September. I understand that the original plans would have this done sooner, and they were using the lockdown period to get the work done, but the plans for the pipe work underground that was put down over 60 years ago isn't particularly accurate. So when they dug down to find what they thought would be a straight bit of pipe work, it turned out to be a valve they didn't know about and several bends in the pipe work. So they had to fill that in and dig somewhere else, which is why the Power Station Road closed for a while. I've been told it's due to reopen at the end of the week. We'll see how that goes. I absolutely lack faith on that. Although Severn Trent were replacing a valve on Yardley Road, and that was done in a day. So who knows? Whenever they get that in. Also, we've got a short list of works to be done on the highway. When we recovered the contract from Amy and transferred it across to Kia Highways, that we also used some money. We didn't pay Amy for the work they didn't do, and we got a chunk of work beyond Acocks Green and across the city on repairing pavements and some bits of highway as well. There's a full list out there, but it's quite detailed work. There's a lot more to come because there was a substantial amount of work not done by Amy. That's pretty much it from me at the moment. Roger, I'll hand across to you. Just give a second to hand over.
Thank you. I don't know if it's clear to people, but sometimes there's a bit of a delay. So apologies for that if that does come across to people. Those were many of the main things I had. on the park, it's perhaps just worth saying there was a consultation about 3 years ago, and that highlighted the first priority was security in the park. And as John said, there's been some further recent problems with that, and that was why the fencing went round first. And the second priority people made was the play areas. So that sort of is that's the reason why that's being looked at now that we've got this next chunk of planning game money. You know, it's as John said, it's will be able to make a real positive difference to the park, and we may be able to go a little bit beyond that as well. We have to see how, you know, what the estimates come back at when people have had their say about what they want. The other main area I had just was a couple of bits of planning news. One is that by very much a team effort of everyone chipping in with comments and thoughts, we managed to get an application for a large hostel on Stockfield Road, actually not in Acocks Green Ward, entirely in Hay Mills Ward, but literally just over the other side of the road. Get that application rejected on the basis of its design and the fact that there are lots of other similar types of property, or lots of a similar use of property in that area, with a lot of registered provider and HMO on HMOs on Stockfield Road. So that's been rejected. As with all these things, we have to wait and see if they come back again with another application. But very pleased that that was turned down despite an officer recommendation initially to approve, so which takes quite a bit of effort to overturn those. Another one which was turned down with an officer recommendation to reject was the storage, the container storage at the back of Station Road, stroke Mallard Close, stroke Oxford Road, where the containers were largely already in situ, but planning permission was rejected, and the applicant there has gone to appeal at with the planning inspectorate. So that will they will take well, I don't know how many weeks they will take, but that will be looked at. We will see in the current environment. It could be quite a while, I imagine, but hopefully the planning inspectorate will agree with both local residents and the Birmingham city planners and turn that down again. We think there are good planning grounds for rejecting it, and we hope the planning inspector agrees. One final thing is that I mean, I get a lot of casework, as I'm sure John does, about what people tend to describe as houses in multiple occupation. It actually covers quite a range of different technical types of property, but that's probably the most commonly known type. These now do require planning permission for all HMOs, if they are HMOs. Until the 8th of June, only large HMOs, those with 6 or more, needed planning approval, but now those with 3 to 6 or 3 to 5, sorry, need planning approval as well. There was a rush by landlords inevitably to get the small HMOs approved before the 8th of June. So some that you may not be aware have actually got permission, already have, but from now on they do need planning approval. And the council is also updating its planning guidance, and subject to the planning inspector again approving the new guidance, which will probably happen around the end of the year. There will be further restrictions placed on the number of HMOs that can go in any one area. So hopefully with both those things coming in, we can actually regulate far more effectively how many HMOs go in particular streets, and stop residential roads being turned into ranks of HMOs. There's a place for both, and well-run HMOs are welcome as part of the housing mix, but we don't want all houses in one area to turn into HMOs, because it disturbs the character of the area. So I think that's it from me. I don't know if our guests have arrived yet.
I'm muted. I do apologise. My mistake. Just to echo Roger's comments about the planning work that's been done lately, particularly the Stockfield hostel, which started out as a 90-bed hostel for everybody, was reduced to a 45-bed place, and I think we challenged it not because people don't need a home or somewhere to live, but simply because that was not the right place for a hostel of that size, and there was a lack of faith in the ability of the company involved to run it properly. So it was a really solid team effort, and yeah, Roger's right, to get a refusal against the advice of officers is quite an achievement, and there's still a possibility that it may yet get an appeal, which can take about 6 months or so, if not more, before we get a decision out of the planning inspectorate. But that's outside the hands of the council now. It's a matter for the applicants if they want to appeal or submit a further application. I can see Dr. Vine has now joined us. Good evening.
Good evening. I'm sorry I'm late. As you can imagine, life is a little hectic at the moment.
Oh, nothing else to do now. It's all sorted. It's all over. You can relax. Put your feet up. So without further ado, I'm going to hand you across to Dr. Vine. You're going to go live in a few seconds. Over to you.
Great. Thank you very much, councillors, and apologies to colleagues watching that I'm a little late today. So I thought I'd join you. It seems like it's almost a year ago I came to meet you in person down in Acocks when we were talking about the public health priorities. So it's good to be back with the Ward Forum again. Where we are on COVID, I'll talk a little bit about where we are, a bit about testing, and a bit about where things are going next. So COVID first appeared in the world back in December. We saw our first case in the UK in early February, and then we saw our first case in Birmingham about the second week of March. Looking back through the data, as I can see it now, we had our first peak around two weeks into April. We then dropped down again and we peaked back up again. And just to give you a sense of that scale, that first peak, we were seeing 134 cases a day in the first peak. We're now seeing about 15 to 20 as a maximum. So we're quite a long way on from where we were, and pretty much since the end of April, beginning of May, we've been on a gradual decline. Now, obviously, as we've come out of lockdown, we've seen numbers increase slightly and a little bit of back up and down, up and down, up and down. And the majority of what we're seeing on the increase in Birmingham now is in working age adults, so people particularly between 20 and 40 years old. And most of it's linked to socialisation. It's about people who've gone to see their friends or their family, and when they're there, they've forgotten to keep that 2 meters distance, perhaps shaked hands or given each other a hug. And as well as giving some love, they've unfortunately given COVID at the same time. Now, we know from the national picture that only about 20% of us have caught COVID so far. So there's still 80% of us still to catch it. And that means we will almost certainly see a second wave. It's a when rather than an if situation when it comes to a second wave. Most of the thinking at the moment is that a second wave is most likely to come in the autumn. And that's because if the weather's nice, we've got our windows open, the air's circulating, and that disrupts the spread of the droplets. The virus doesn't particularly like dry, hot weather, so it doesn't live quite as well in that or as long as it does in cold, damp environments. And if the weather gets worse, then we all come inside, we huddle together, we close our windows, and the virus takes off again. So at the moment, we think the second wave will probably come in the autumn around October or November time, probably alongside seasonal flu. So what we're doing at the moment now, between now and the next wave, is starting to work with the NHS to see what can we do to help people reduce their risk of becoming seriously unwell or unfortunately dying in the second wave. And there are three main things that you can change between now and the second wave. So the first thing is, if you are carrying a few extra pounds, as many of us have put on weight during lockdown, it's about getting a bit more in shape and reducing our weight, because obesity does increase your chances of dying if you catch COVID. It's about giving up smoking. Smoking is associated with an increased risk of dying, or switching to e-cigarettes, which reduces your risk. Or if you have a chronic condition like diabetes, high blood pressure, kidney disease, or chronic airways disease, chronic lung disease, then you should be making sure that you're on top of that. If you have diabetes, for example, that's about making sure your blood sugar's under control. And in normal circumstances, if you're a diabetic, you would have an annual health check, normally with a practice nurse, to have a conversation about how your diabetes is being managed. And all the GPs across the city are now geared up to have that conversation, either by telephone or by webcam, or they can also arrange for you to come in and do it safely as well. So it's really important we use the next couple of months to get kind of match ready for the next round of COVID and do what we can each do to reduce our chances of being very seriously sick. So finally, I'll just touch on testing and why that's so important at the moment. So if you have symptoms of COVID, so whether you have a high temperature, a new persistent cough, or a change in your sense of smell or taste, then you ring 119 or go on the NHS website and you can book a test. They've got translation services, so if you've got friends that don't speak great English, if they ring 119 and they say, this is the language I need, then the service can get someone on the phone that can talk to them in their first language, which is really good. That's a new thing that's come along in the last couple of weeks. They'll then be given, you'll then be given an appointment that will either be at a drive-through site. So if you have a car, you can drive to get a test with an appointment, either at the Edgbaston Cricket Ground at the moment, but we've also got some mobile sites. So there's one down at Moseley Rugby Football Club in the car park there. We've got one that goes at the City Football Ground car park as well. So you can probably follow which sport you prefer and pick your drive-through site as well. But we're trying to develop more of these sites across the city as well. We're also piloting a walk-through site. Now, that's not much use for you in Acocks because it's up in Villa Street, up in Newtown, and that's a bit of a walk, even if you're being very healthy, to go and get your test. But we are looking at how we can develop some of these sites across the city and increase access for people that don't have a car. So if you don't have a car at the moment, you'll get a postal kit if you're in Acocks, because it is too far to get to Newtown. And that means you'll get a kit sent through the post. You have to use the kit. It's got really clear instructions, and then you have to post it. And the difficult bit is you've got to post it about an hour before they come and empty the post box. So do read the instructions, because it tells you which post box you've got to take it to and what the time slot is. You'll get your result normally within 2 days. If you go to a drive-through site, you'll probably get the result the next day. So there's a little bit longer because of the post. While you're waiting for your result, you and your family, those people you live with, need to isolate at home. So that's like being back down in lockdown. And if you test positive, someone will ring you from the NHS, or they'll send you an email and they will tell you what to do next. And it's really important you have that conversation with them, because that advice is tailored to you and what your circumstance is. They'll talk through to where you've been in the last couple of days and identify anyone else at risk who needs advice, so they can do what they need to keep them safe as well. And that's how we're going to control the virus. That's the most important thing we can do at the moment to stop us going back into lockdown or ending up where Leicester is at the moment. You know, to put it in perspective, Leicester's about 10 times the rate of cases from where we are now. So we're running about 12 cases per 100,000. Leicester's running about 134 per 100,000. So it's quite a big difference. Sandwell, that you'll have seen in the news, they're running about 22 to 25 cases per 100,000. So we are in a very different place as a city, but it's what we all do at the moment that makes a difference and what comes next. And that's why I want to come and talk to you today, to just share a bit of where we are now, but also to reinforce those reflections. It hasn't gone away. It's still with us. And unfortunately, this is going to be the situation we'll be in for quite a long time until we get a vaccine or a treatment that's very effective. And even if we discover a vaccine that works, and there's some good signs from the early trials, it'll take about a year to manufacture enough and get everyone out and getting their jabs in time. So, you know, we're going to be in this new normal for quite a while, I think, moving forward. So I'll stop there, and I'm happy to take any questions that you have, councillors, or anything that's come through on the chat.
Questions on the chat at the moment. This question just, I had to take a postal test a few weeks ago. So, and that was something that was delivered and then collected by a parcel collections firm. So have they stopped that now? He's now going into one of the approved boxes. I know there's one on the Yardley Road outside the MP's office. So you have to deliver that an hour before the collection point.
Yeah, and that's because we've
had to pass back to you, I think.
Yeah, that's fine. It's just passing back on the video, so you can see my ugly mug again. Yeah, we've shifted to people using the post box to send them back, and that's because there's been such a big increase in tests. So in Birmingham, we've gone from about 300 tests per 100,000 population to about 560 tests per 100,000 population. Now, I'd like us to get up to nearer 650 tests per 100,000. That's where I'm aiming for, because I think that gives me confidence that we've got good uptake and people across the city are taking this seriously and getting a test when they need it. And obviously that number of tests in a city of our size, you couldn't do that through a courier. No one would ever get a delivery because we'd be using all the capacity. So that's why it's flipped to being the post boxes. But there are, as I say, also the drive-through and the walkthrough, and there'll be more walkthrough sites, I think, coming. And we're going to talk a bit more about that at the Local Outbreak Engagement Board next week. And we'll be talking to you as ward members as we start to identify sites, so you can share with residents where we think we would put one of these testing sites if we needed to. And that's the key bit. Some of this is about preparing for a second wave or a Leicester scenario where we need to increase access to testing quickly. We need to plan for that in advance.
Justin, could I ask you a bit about?
Hold on, Roger. You want to transfer back to Roger?
Oh, yeah. Thank you. Justin, could I ask you just to sort of clarify the position on masks, which there's been a lot of sort of debate about. I mean, in particular, you know, when I go to my local supermarket in Acocks Green, most people aren't currently wearing a mask when they're in there. But few, you know, some are, but most probably, I think you'd say, aren't. And I think, if I've understood it right, that does need to change.
Yeah, so it's really important to help get across this point that when you wear a face covering, what you're doing is taking some responsibility for not spreading the virus to the world. And that's different from wearing a surgical face mask that you see a doctor or a nurse or a care assistant wearing, which is about protecting them from the patient they're looking after. So wearing a face covering when we go into any enclosed space that we don't live in. So whether that's going into a shop, going into a face setting, going into a taxi or into a bus, that's where you should be wearing a face covering. It needs to be 2 to 3 layers of fabric. Any fabric will do except knitting, because it's got big holes in it. So, you know, whether you cut up an old t-shirt, whether you use a tea towel, whether you use a scarf, don't mind. And I've been saying consistently now, and I really welcome colleagues to amplify this, start wearing it now, get used to it. before the 24th, because on the 24th you'll get a fine for not wearing it in a shop. And the shops will be responsible for calling the police. It's a spot ticket like it is for like a parking fine type thing, but the police do it. And I think we all need to own this. You know, wearing a face covering is about me doing my bit to protect you and the other people in the shop, particularly the shop staff. And that's another really important point to make. The shop staff don't have to wear face coverings because we're wearing face coverings. They've worked really hard to make sure that we could still get the things, food and drink during the outbreak so far. So it's time for us to show them a bit of respect and wear face coverings when we're out and about. And I do hope that more people will start to do it and just see it as normal. Certainly in other cities where this has started, I have friends in New York who went through this. It took a week or two for it to become normal, and then everyone just got into it, and they became a bit of a fashion statement. And I know you can get a Black Country flag one. I haven't yet seen one with the Birmingham crest on it, but I'm sure someone's going to come up with one soon for me, because I think we should all be showing a bit of Brummie pride about this as well.
Thank you.
Thanks, Justin. Yeah, I actually think mask wearing is on the up a little bit. I've noticed it more than was a few weeks ago. But it is, as you say, it is actually about protecting other people, not about keeping you safe, about looking after other people. And I think we also need to say there are some people who can't wear masks, and this isn't about being sort of enforcers for wearing masks. There are people who have non-visible conditions that mean they can't wear masks. People who have severe asthma, people with breathing issue, and some people who suffer from things like autism, who find it very difficult to wear a face mask out and about, and it really bothers them. So be understanding, people out there who might be wearing a mask for a perfectly good reason. What you need to do is do your bit, and you wear your mask. And yes, it's an inconvenience, but believe me, it's more inconvenient being ill. I had what we think was a minor case in late March, and that was unpleasant for a week, and that was a really minor case. I know people who've been really very seriously ill as a result of this, and obviously we know people who've died. And there are a number of people out there who've had longer term issues despite recovering from this. So this is not, it's not a myth, this is not a lightweight condition. It is killing people, and it's really hurting people. So please do your bit, wear a mask. It's not much to ask. Also, thank Justin, actually. I don't say it's often enough, really, but he's been outstanding in supporting the Cabinet and the Council and the people of Birmingham over the past 6 months. Again, this has been incredibly unusual for all of us. But you have to be well over 100 years old to have been through anything like this, and we're not quite that old yet. But Justin's been outstanding. He's got a national reputation in supporting us and in public health, and we've been really lucky to have him on board during this crisis. Actually, more broadly, I think the council's done really well. I know even us councillors not what the council does sometimes, but as an organisation, it has stood up and done a fantastic job. Not without fault, and not without help from the third sector. They've been really brilliant as well. But you know, we had a council that ramped up to at peak supplying 60 tons of food a week to people who needed it. We rolled out a voucher scheme to support kids at school who are on free school meals, and we've got that out faster than the government did. You know, we've done a fair bit over the past 6 months that actually we can be hugely proud of. And I said at the start, I think I know when Justin was in meetings before this, we were talking about some horrific figures in terms of deaths, and we have escaped those. Any one is a tragedy, and we've lost well over 1,000 people to this. And we lost more people to this than we lost in the Birmingham Blitz. But it could have been a lot worse, and the fact it wasn't and hasn't been so far, so I think largely is out of the fact that people, when the country locked down, we locked down as a city and we did it very, very well. So we have a lot to be proud of for our achievements over the past 6 months. But Justin, I always bow to the experts. We can expect a further peak over the coming months. We've probably got a break now over summer when we're out and about in the fresh air. But come the autumn, come the winter, this is going to be back. And we have to be ready for that and be prepared to cope with that. And I'm confident people like Justin and the rest of the team around us, we are in a good place to see ourselves through that. There's work to do. Are there any questions out there for any of our hundreds of thousands of viewers? If not, I will say thank you, Justin. Is there anything you'd want to come back as a closing point, Justin?
No, I think just to say
I'm back to you.
Just to say thank you. First, thank you for the acknowledgement. I really appreciate it, and I really appreciated the support from members across all parties, and particularly from those in Cabinet who've been incredibly supportive working with me through this. And as you say, we still have a way to go, and it's up to what we all do as residents of the city that will see us through this. So I'm happy to come back to a future ward forum to give you an update, perhaps later in the year, as we keep going. And obviously, if there is a particular spike in Acocks, then we will come back and be working with both members to brief citizens accordingly. But I hope not to see that, and I hope not to see you until it's a regular update. So thank you for your time tonight, and it's been a pleasure to join you.
Thank you.
Right, well, Justin's off now to Sutton Vesey. By the magic of Microsoft Teams, he can travel across the city in seconds. Right, we were hoping to have Sergeant Craig Woolaway on board with us. I don't think he is, unless I've missed anything. So in that case, we'll skip on to item 5. Have we any issues or questions from residents? I can't see any in the chat. No, I can't see anything. Nothing was emailed to me in advance of this. Okay. Roger, is there anything you want to say before we close?
No, I don't think so. I think if I mean, like John, I'm still we're not able to have face-to-face advice bureaus, and we don't know when we will. It could be quite some time, but people can contact both of us by email, by phone, and so on. So I mean, it's actually, I mean, it's been interesting. I don't know how you found it, John, but I think the first month was actually, things went fairly quiet, but certainly the last couple of months it's been very, very busy. So probably the fact that we haven't been travelling to meetings has been a good thing, because we've had a bit more time to deal with the heaps of stuff that residents are giving to us. But that's all fine. So if people do have issues, do get in touch with us by electronic or by phone, electronic means or by phone.
Thanks, Roger. And yes, I'd agree with you. For the first month, people seem to just get on with locking themselves down, and we didn't have an awful lot of casework. But it's picked up again in the past month or so. The routines returned, and yeah. Also say, don't think just because your councillors haven't been visible that work is not going on in the background, and we aren't still out there supporting the residents of Acocks Green. We're both still doing it. We're both still doing our casework. We're both still working. I'm still dealing with the range of issues I get on Cabinet. bins is still a large part of my life, and it's the work carries on. It doesn't stop. And if you need to get hold of us, we are all available electronically and able to support you as best we possibly can at the moment. And we will hopefully get back to some sort of normality as soon as we can. Don't know when that's going to be yet. Just also need to pass on one other bit of good news. That is about Foxhollows Community Association, which of course won a Queen's Award. And that's a great recognition for a local organisation that's really kept itself going against the odds sometimes. It's gone from being a council-run operation to something that's now independently run. Roger and I have to have interests here as both being involved in the management board, but we've seen fantastic work on youth engagement down there, and that's really going to go from strength to strength. And hopefully we're going to be able to ensure that they are the centre of work as we run up towards the Commonwealth Games in almost exactly 2 years' time. So we'll be having some sort of events in Acocks Green, as they will be across the city. And I hope that they'll be able to lead on that and get the young people of Acocks Green involved. But really great that they've had a Queen's Award for volunteering, because that's it's sort of an MBE for organisations. It's a mark of the quality of work that they do. Well, as the police. Oh, Al, something new. Can we return to volunteer work? Is a question that's appeared in the chat. Depends on what the volunteer work is. I think that's from Baron Treadwell of Acocks Green. If it's about litter picking, and yes, you can. We have some safety guidance we put together with the Birmingham Open Spaces Forum, and groups are now able to return to litter picking our parks and our streets and doing those sort of things, as long as they can maintain social distance and the groups don't exceed 30. Be quite pleased we got something near 30 on the litter pick, but as most litter picks and so on are by nature quite distanced from each other, you can return to that. It's just a matter of working with the safety guidance. If anyone wants a copy of that, it's on the Birmingham Open Spaces Forum website, the BOSF website, or you can drop me an email or message in some way and I'll get a copy across to you. Yes, we are supporting those again, so litter that's bagged up and picked will be collected by the crews. So yes, you can return to doing that stuff as long as you do it safely, and that's message on everything. That we're now looking again about events in our parks, but those events have to be done in a COVID-safe manner, and that's not a simple process. It has to be secured and have to be able to keep records of who's attending and so on. So it's not straightforward, but we are gradually returning to a new form of normality over the coming weeks. Because we've got a few weeks to get through over summer. That's the Anonymous. Are we continuing with virtual meetings at the moment? Yes, I'm afraid we are. We've got no plans to restart in-person meetings yet, and I can't tell you what's going to happen. I suspect we may end up shifting to some more hybrid meetings where we have some people in a room and some people coming in on like this on Teams or other platforms. But I think the old normal of having a meeting at Foxhollows Forum where we're all in a room is probably not going to happen for some while, and I think we can be talking into next year before we actually start doing that again. I have to say, I would like to see us continue with some sort of virtual presence as well. I think there are people who perhaps want to engage with us as councillors in a public forum, can't necessarily make it to Foxhollows Forum, and maybe we can try and find a way of combining a virtual format with a live format as well, because there is something about being in a room with other people and engaging with them and seeing them. Actually, this is one of the problems I have with Teams Live, that we can't see you and we can't hear you, and that's quite nice. So we may try a different bit of software for the next one of these. We haven't, which brings us on to the date of the next Water Forum, which we haven't got a date for yet. I think we're talking September, but we haven't got that confirmed yet. So we'll be in touch once we have one. Final call for any questions? I can't see any. In that case, I will say thank you to all of you for attending. Thank you to Justin for coming along and talking to us. And we will gather again in September in some form of online forum. So thank you all. Have a good summer, and we'll see you in the autumn. Stay safe.